Okay, a couple weeks ago, I dropped my first podcast where it was just basically me talking to the camera, kind of like a monologue. Um, and then I told you guys I was going to do some more of that. I totally enjoy interviewing people, and that's what I want this thing to grow into is me interviewing people and giving you different perspectives and some stories from different walks of life that you might find interesting. But I also want to talk about my Secret Service career because for some strange reason you guys want to hear about that, and and I understand that I'm a little jaded when it comes to that kind of stuff. I like to hear people tell their stories on whatever podcast I'm listening to, and I think it's interesting and intriguing. But when it comes to me talking about my life, it just feels, I don't know, dull or boring. And I realize that's not necessarily the case because I've lived this life that most people, didn't get to live. And again, I'm a little jaded because of that. So it just feels a little odd. But I told you guys a couple of weeks ago that when I do these, I kind of gave you my overview of my career. Then I said I would come back and kind of get in the weeds on some things. And part of the reason I'm doing a podcast, I think, is to try to help people. At least that's what I want to do. I don't know if I am or will, but hopefully you'll get something from these, even if it's just entertainment value or something. But I do want to help people as much as that sounds cliche. I really do. Um, anyway, what I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight is resiliency and perseverance. Because I think I told you that I got promoted late in my career. The Secret Service would never admit this, but it's an unwritten rule that they won't even look at you for promotion until you have 10 years on the job. Now, that's not written in any manual, that's not in any SOP, but if you don't have at least 10 years on the job, you're not getting looked at. They can't keep you from bidding, it's illegal, but they're just not going to pick you. Which is kind of weird because if you work at a sheriff's department or police department, if you had to wait 10 years to make sergeant, you wouldn't have much of a force yet because guys can get promoted very quickly if they're squared away. Not always quickly, but they can, right? 5 years, 6 years, whatever, like that. Some guys get promoted late in career, and some guys don't ever get promoted, and that's okay too because you have to have a head shed, right, making decisions, right? And then you have to have the guys doing the things, the boots on the ground, and that's okay too. So we all have our position, and that's what makes the wheels go round. But I got promoted late in my career. I had 19 years on the job. So from the 10-year mark when I started bidding until the 19-year mark, that was 88 bids. I was told no 87 times. Now you got to remember that's a course of 9 years, and it wasn't like I quit living. I mean, I left PPD. I was on PPD, Presidential Protective Division, when I started bidding. And then from there, I was fortunate enough to get an overseas office. So I went to London. So I kind of took myself out of the race for promotions for 3.5 years anyway, because when I had just gotten overseas and they were going to get their money's worth out of me. So I really couldn't bid for those 3.5 years. So those numbers are a little jaded. So more like probably 5.5 year window, right? Where I couldn't really get picked up. So 87 no's. That builds thick skin, which I already had because I had played college football and I was been a cop, and that locker room type atmosphere with busting chops, and you can't show weakness if you're in law enforcement. They'll eat you alive. So I had thick skin, I think, anyway. But at the end of the day, you're a human being, and if you're told no enough, it's like, wow, it kind of starts to sting a little bit. So I think the message I'm trying to send tonight is, I don't know what's going on in your personal life, whether it's a personal issue or a financial issue or a professional thing. It's okay to hear no. Sometimes no makes us better. It makes us stronger. It's not it's not always fun, for sure. I didn't like hearing no. I still don't like hearing no. But it's part of it, right? We can't always get what we want when we want. A lot of times, I think, as a believer in Christ, I believe that God's will and His timing are perfect. And so, because God is basically outside of time, we see things linear, and we want it when we want it and how we want it. And it's just not the way it works. We're kind of like spoiled brats, if we're being honest. And so no one likes a spoiled brat, right? And so anyway, it's like when you hear no, it's basically like getting knocked down, right? So we're all going to get knocked down. I'm a football coach too, and so I tell my players, look, you're going to get knocked. I don't care if you're the best player on the field, you're going to get knocked down. You're going to get tackled or whatever, right? So it's not about getting knocked down. It's about getting back up, And so we all have to get back up once we get knocked down, and that's just having resiliency and perseverance, and you just have to hang in there. And, again, not everybody's going to get promoted. I have very rarely met anybody that didn't think they were squared away. Everybody I've ever met thinks they should have been the, special agent in charge of whatever division. Not really, but you know what I'm saying? Like everybody thinks they're worthy of promotion. But sometimes you just have to trust the process. Sometimes you just have to be patient, and that's hard for us. Like I said, when I was trying to get promoted, I still had a good career. I was still being a dad, still being a husband, still coaching, still doing my thing, still having a good career. But I wanted to kind of affect change with the people in my little sphere of influence. You're not going to change the Secret Service as a GS-14. That ain't going to happen. You're not even going to change it as a 15. You're going to have to change it as an SCS, which I never made. And I knew that, but I also was like, okay, I want people to have a good work-life balance because I wanted one. So I saw all the things that I had worked for guys before that I didn't like, and I tried to throw that away. And for the guys that I worked for that I did like, I put all that stuff in my toolbox because I believe there's a difference between management and leadership. You've probably heard me say before, I manage my finances, I lead people. Well, a leader will lead from the front, right? He or she will do things. They won't make their employees do things they haven't done or that they wouldn't be willing to do. So I believed in being transparent and honest, and I believe people can smell BS a mile away anyway, right? And so it's like, just be transparent, be honest, and be a leader, and I think that shows. And that's what I wanted to do, is I just wanted to help people become better agents, also managing life at the same time, because it's a very hard job. The military goes, when they get deployed, they're downrange for 6 months, 9 months, a year, whatever. So their spouse knows, okay, dude's gone. I'm mom and dad. I'm paying the bills. I'm doing the groceries. I'm doing everything. But a Secret Service agent's life, you're not gone downrange for 6 months at a time. But over the course of 25 years, you're gone a ton. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 days. Sometimes it's a month. It can be all kinds of things. So that lifestyle is hard too. And I'm not trying to compare, apples to oranges. But, I mean, they're both hard in their own way, right? So it's just a lifestyle of constant just living your life on someone else's schedule, And so what I wanted to do, because I'd had some hardships that I thought could have been prevented. Some things cannot be prevented, right? It's the job. You're going to miss some things. But you worked for people, sometimes I work for people that are like, well, it's just the job. Well, no, that's not a good answer. I knew what I was getting into when I signed up. No, like, there's no reason to make me work Christmas morning just because you can. Like, if you have to, that's fine, but don't just do it to do it. Just things like that. And I just wanted to try to help people the best I could. And I couldn't always help people. Sometimes the mission has to go on. You have to put the mission first, but there's a way to do that, right? There's a right way and a wrong way. I believe that you can accomplish the mission at the same time of trying to help foster some of these relationships with your subordinates and your coworkers, and then of course people have things going on in their family life that you may or may not know about. And I think that's why I really wanted to try to get promoted, is to, of course your ego is involved too. You want to get promoted because you want to do some things, but not everybody wants to lead. Not everybody's born a leader, and that's okay too. But a lot of it was ego. I'm not going to sit here and act like I didn't have an ego, because I did. But I think it was in the right frame of mind. At least I hope it was. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Just, if you're out there struggling to get a promotion or to find the dream job, like it's going to happen. You just have to have faith that it's going to happen. If you're a believer like I am in Jesus, you pray about it. Ask God for his direction and his discernment. And, I heard a preacher say one time, you don't have to like it or understand it. You just have to accept it. And I was 15 years old when I heard that, and that stuck with me. don't always understand. I certainly don't always like it, but I can pray for acceptance. And that's what I tried to do. And I believe that once I finally humbled myself and I stopped being so bitter, I believe I was rewarded and got promoted. And not only did I get promoted, but I got promoted back to the president's detail, which is super hard to do. And I was blessed in the end. So that's it.